welcome you again very warmly for being here and for coming so numerous. So first of all, I will give you a few information. As you know, this afternoon we will have the statutory part of the General Assembly, followed by a nice reception to which you are all welcome. So based on the fee payment, there are 71 members, and we have attained the quorum here because we have 36 voting organizations who are either physically present or who have received a proxy vote from another organization. This means that at the moment of the vote, don't be surprised if you see some people who have 2 votes in their hand. So normally, as you know, we proceed by a show of hands for the vote, but there is also the option of having a secret vote. It should simply be requested by at least 1 member. And we are lucky to have 2 scrutinizers to count the votes. Maybe they can raise their hands, the scrutinizers. They are not...
Oksana and Martina.
Yeah, okay, not here yet, but we'll have 2 scrutinizers, don't worry. So, now you have all received the agenda, I think, in the emails. It's time to adopt the agenda, but does anybody has any comment on the agenda of the statutory part? No? No comments? So shall we take it that the agenda is approved? Thank you. Now we come to the minutes. Oh, and I forgot to say that we also have organizations participating online. So now we come to the minutes of the 2017 GA. I think you have all also received the minutes. So, anybody has any comments on the minutes? No? No comments? Okay, thank you very much. So, we take it that the minutes of the 2017 GA are approved. Now we come to the annual report of 2017. So, we will have first the annual report of the presentation of the Secretariat, and then we will have presentation of working groups. But as we already had a session on the working groups this morning and that many of them could present their work, we will really limit the presentation of the working groups to 2 minutes, please, because we are a bit short of time. So, I think it's Annabelle who will present the wonderful report of the Secretariat first.
Thank you, Ayla. Thank you very much. I think you'll all agree that this is a beautiful looking annual report. Congratulations, everyone at the Secretariat and everyone who's been involved in its publication this year. I think it looks super, 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 and it's a really, really great document presenting the progress that Child Rights Connect has made in 2017. And we see very clearly that it has made very, very strong advances, or we have made very strong advances as Child Rights Connect, the network, in advocating to the UN to better promote and protect the rights of children, and also to support children to empower them to claim their rights. In addition to that, it has been a very, very strong year to strengthen the network. And I think the energy and the collaboration that we witnessed this morning is testament to that. I think it's very, very clear that we really now work as a network. Our thinking has changed over the last year, and we really, really now are functioning as a group of organisations as opposed to only a separate secretariat with members. And this is a very exciting shift. And in addition to that, there have been many exciting opportunities for learning and network and exchange within the network over the last year. Before I go into the detail of the report, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the Secretariat for their really, really hard work this year, for all of the members and for everything that you have done to contribute to making Child Rights Connect very strong this year. Also to my other colleagues on EXCO, and also, of course, to our donors and partners. Thank you, everybody. So now let's have a look in more detail. Thank you, David, for being my techie.
Yay.
Okay, here we go, 20,000, 2017. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so let's move on.
Yeah, it's not responding.
Well, while you're massaging PowerPoint, we can maybe continue already to say that 2017 has really been a year for connecting individuals and organisations locally, nationally, regionally and internationally within Child Rights Connect. And there are loads of examples that highlight the excellent work that has been conducted last year, but in this presentation I will select a few. You will remember, those of you who were with us last year at the General Assembly in this very room, we really launched the network concept, and that really described the vision, or describes the vision, the values and the common understanding of cooperation within Child Rights Connect network. And you really, and as I was saying, you really feel this new energy and very, very strong engagement from all the members. And as we discussed this morning, there's absolutely masses of potential and scope to strengthen this, make this better, to make the connections stronger. But it's clear that we're working towards that, and everybody seems extremely committed to achieve that. There have been other very exciting things taking place. Last year, for example, the Secretariat, in collaboration with several of you, submitted a proposal for the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child to conduct the 2018 Day of General Discussion on the theme of children's human rights defenders. And as we know, it has been successful, and it's very, very exciting, and we are very much behind the DGD that's going to be happening this year. This was a huge success, and especially big thanks to Ilaria for all of your work behind this. And setting up the Children's Advisory Team as well, which of course we have spoken about this morning, so I won't go into detail on that now, but it's a significant achievement last year. Other things, so one-day training for all members conducted for the second time, and this year it was on reporting to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. We have been very strong at promoting webinars for task forces, for example, to really facilitate the engagement and participation within these groups. And well done, David, for presenting the website today as well. This, again, a huge, huge amount of work has gone into that last year, which we don't see yet in this annual report, but as we saw today, a significant advance in really facilitating our engagement as members within this network. There have been many opportunities for informal exchange and interaction over the last year. There was, of course, the evening reception at the GA last year, which was great. For those of you who were here, I'm sure you'll agree it was a very memorable evening. I will never forget Kate Gilmore handing Eamon Hansen a sanitary towel in such a high-profile public meeting. It will remain with me and on my phone forever.
Do you still have the towel?
Was not mine. I have to ask her about that. Eamon and I go back a long, long way. I've never seen him in that light before. So another opportunity. 2017 was the first informal breakfast, or the start of the monthly informal breakfast meetings, and those have been very, very exciting, and they've of course happened in Geneva, but as we were talking about this morning, perhaps the scope that they become more international. Now, if we move on, please, David, to look at the theory of change. Let me just point out to you this very, very cool theory of change, which I think is very cool. Let's find it. Sorry, I should have... There we go. This is what it looks like. Here it is. And what we see here, it's on page 8. So I'm going to put my copy down, but I'm just going to flag it as being very, very cool. Child Rights Connect is really at the foundation of applying and implementing and mainstreaming rights-based approaches, child rights-based approaches. And this is very, very, very well reflected in the theory of change. It's all about supporting duty bearers, the state being the primary duty bearer, to fulfill their obligation to children in order to promote, protect and realise children's rights. And that's an absolute foundation of achieving rights for children. But of course, alongside that, the only way that we can achieve that is also to empower children to claim their rights. And this is very much at the heart of Child Rights Connect's theory of change. Accountability and participation are significant principles within adopting a rights-based approach. And you can quite clearly see in this theory of change that Child Rights Connect have really, really demonstrated their commitment to achieving that. And there are many examples of how we are actually applying this in practice. So, for example, supporting child rights defenders has been an excellent example of that last year. And there is an example that some of you will be aware of children from the Philippines and Zambia participating in a UN debate last year in an event that was supported by Save the Children and Civicus. This is one very strong example of really, really opening up the doors for dialogue between children and the decision makers here in Geneva in the UN mechanisms. But there's more. There's loads in this annual report. Have you read it? It's really long. Optional protocol on the communications procedure, building on Child Rights Connect's excellent success, the campaigning success that they had back in 2014. We've made really strong progress to further this work. Last year, Child Rights Connect has been involved in advising and providing technical assistance to migrant lawyers in EU states, for example, on the optional protocol. Again, coming back to making things more accessible, we've established an online platform to really facilitate the submission of alternative reports, to really try to make the Committee on the Rights of the Child more accessible. We know, for those of us working outside of Geneva, we know that this can seem like a very, very impenetrable system. And for anyone trying to use the OHCHR website, good luck to us all, because it's a nightmare, as we know. So this is a really, really excellent step forward to assist us all in that process. Yes, and we've really, really helped progress the transition to the new simplified reporting procedure for the Convention on the Rights of the Child. A task force has been set up to identify the successes and challenges and then compile feedback and recommendations for the committee. This is going to be yet again another very helpful piece of work for what we're doing in the future. Okay, so as I mentioned at the start of this presentation, Child Rights Connect is absolutely committed, and that is a foundation of its work to really try to strengthen human rights mechanisms here in Geneva and on the international stage. A big part of this last year has been around the SDGs, of course, and many of you will remember the position paper that Child Rights Connect developed in preparation for the 2017 Human Rights Council Annual Day on the Rights of the Child, which really, really articulated what a rights-based approach should look like and what it means. This is going to be absolutely pivotal for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think Child Rights Connect should be very proud of that piece of work. And again, strengthening children's participation, coming back to the work led by Ilaria and all the team. There was an annual, there was a one-day retreat last year with Child Rights Connect, the committee, OHCHR and UNICEF, to really look at how to strengthen child participation in the UN. Okay, and further, we've been really looking to strengthen the wider treaty body system. TBNet has been founded last year with Child Rights Connect leading role, and this treaty body, this net has been treaty body net has been set up to increase the effectiveness of the UN treaty body system, in order to ensure accountability in respect to the UN human rights treaties. That is really to make sure that everybody's rights and everybody is represented in all of these UN treaties. And of course, Child Rights Connect really takes on the perspective of children, but we must make sure that absolutely every individual is represented in each of the treaties and the work that they're considering. Okay, so let's look at some numbers, and we've got a lot of numbers. I'd prefer to show you this page, I think. But just to take some snapshots, I'm on page 14, if you're interested. We've supported 138 child rights defenders, among which 32 children have come to Geneva and have reported directly to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. 24 countries have been reviewed. 219 reports have been submitted. As we were hearing this morning, the MOOC on alternative care has been accessible to 5,186 learners from a whopping 136 countries. That's enormous, guys.
Sorry, just to bear in mind, that
please.
was just the first run.
That was the first run.
Yeah, we just finished the second.
Yeah, exactly. We have nearly 5,500 new social media followers. That's a 21% increase on Twitter and 35% increase on Facebook. 8 new states have ratified OPIC. And there's the details of all of these we can find here in the report. But I think we just need to just step back and just see this is a huge amount of work that has been going on last year. And for reasons that we'll go on to discuss later in this meeting, it has been a very challenging year, but I think we should be very proud. Sorry, it's nearly flight this time. Okay, and as we discussed this morning, we have 6 really great committed working groups who have been extremely busy and active over the scope of last year, which we've been hearing about this morning. And just to remind you, that's the working groups on children and violence, children of incarcerated parents, investment in children, children without appropriate care, and children in armed conflict, and ending sexual exploitation of children. Yes, I know. Yeah, exactly. So before we invite the groups to come forward and give a quick report on their achievements from last year, I would just like to thank everybody for all your hard work and your commitment, and looking ahead to a very exciting year. And let's make 2018 our best.
Thank you. Really, thank you, Annabelle. And I just want to re-emphasize what Annabelle says. And when you look at only this page of the annual report really shows the extraordinary work which has been carried this year by Child Rights Connect, and especially by its extraordinary secretariats, whose people are sitting in front of the room, and who is led by Beatrice sitting in front of you. And believe me, it's an extraordinary amount of work done in very difficult circumstances, and we will come back to that tomorrow. So I think it's really amazing, and maybe they deserve a first round of applause. So now the floor is open for question on this part of the report of 2017 before we go on with the short reports of the working groups. Please.
I have a question regarding the new reporting system, which is said to be simpler, but I want to know for whom. Because within our national coalitions, there has began a fight for the list of issues, because everybody thinks one's own issue is the most important one. So I and also with time limits, quite strict time limits, I don't think it is such a beautiful invention. What is your opinion about this?
Yes, thank you, Hannah. I agree. It's called simplified reporting procedures. You know that this is a process that is imposed on the whole treaty body system, so it's not a choice of the committee itself. We have known that this is coming for several years. That's why we have really taken the initiative some time ago. Actually, it was 2 years ago when we had a strategic workshop with the committee, OHCHR and UNICEF to talk about how are we going to deal with these simplified reporting procedures, how can we ensure that civil society can continue to have this big space that we have with the CRC. And it was, I can tell you, it was a very difficult workshop. Not in a sense we were all in agreement what we want to keep, what are the values, but there are also certain constraints that are really coming from outside. And what we achieved is that we have a very close dialogue with the committee while we are implementing the first countries that are reporting according to these procedures, and that we make sure that we have good information from the ground of the challenges, of the successes, what works well, what doesn't work well, and feed that back to the committee. So this is my invitation to everyone who is involved in the simplified reporting procedures and wants to know more, wants to ensure that your experience is getting heard in Geneva. Join the task force that we have on simplified reporting procedures led by Ilaria.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, or please?
Just a comment, just to congratulate the Secretariat and the team for the great work. I know it has been a challenging year also, but I think we can see how the development of the work plan, of having a theory of change, of a clear guideline of where we are heading to, it's kind of giving the first results, I think. And despite all the efforts of doing all this management part of the network, there are concrete results in terms of content. For sure, of course, we can always improve in many things, in synergies, in communication. But I think what we see here is the product of a lot of work, of a small team, and with the collaboration, of course, of the many members. So I want to congratulate the team. But also to say that that it would be great that we continue enhancing the communications, and that we don't wait until the General Assemblies to have all this compilation of great work and say, oh, wow, we have done a lot of work. But I know we have the newsletters, I know we have the website, but sometimes I think as members, because we are so busy with our own work, we don't see the big picture, but we see small pieces here and there that we cannot see, compile. And it would be good maybe to think how we can bring this to the members in a more compiled way, that we can see where the progress is being made. And so this is just a suggestion, and just to reiterate, congratulations to the Secretariat.
Thank you so much, and this point is well taken. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the report? No? No? Okay, so we will continue with the reporting of year 2017 with the working groups. But as stated, please be very brief, because we had a very substantive and great session this morning. So I will call first on the working group on investment in children to make a short presentation of the achievement of 2017. Who is reporting?
Agatha.
Oh, okay, she's on online.
She's online,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you, Agatha. You have the floor.
Called the wrong person, of course.
Shall I move to?
Yeah, move to the next one.
Okay. So the next one is children without parental care. I think it's Alan who is reporting.
I think I can afford to be brief, given that we've said most of this already this morning. But 2017, of course, was the big year. We finally managed to launch this MOOC. For those of you who don't know, because I didn't know what a MOOC was 18 months ago, a massive open online course. It's free to access, so obviously, hopefully, everyone's got decent internet access. There is course material, there's course video, tutorials, exchange groups, discussion groups. In our MOOC, there's a storyline to follow through the 6 weeks of the course. So it runs for 6 weeks. There's 4 hours of learning and reading involved in it each week. And as we said this morning, attrition rates in MOOCs, given that they're free to access, you might start one on entomology. You can go to mooc.com and find any subject you want almost. Universities across the globe are providing MOOCs on all sorts of topics. So you might start one on entomology and by week 3 think, well, maybe this isn't for me after all, and leave. And with an attrition rate of less than 2% across the 2 runs, we know we've targeted it well in terms of who we've got participating. But it's just everyone in MOOC world who knows MOOCs better than we do is astounded by this lack of attrition. So we've just run it for the 2nd time, and we have 3 more runs for it. And the other big project, which has been 3 years in the preparation, was the launch of the Tracking Progress tool, the Tracking Progress Initiative, as it's called online. It's a monitoring tool to help national coalitions come together with government, international agencies to assess the implementation of the guidelines for the alternative care of children. It's a big tool. There's 147 questions, I believe, but they're split into 4 component parts. So like you can approach the tool from in chunks, if you like, in more manageable chunks. There's lots of guidance on how to use the tool, how to come together as a group and complete the tool, and the tool generates a report. So that's been a long bit of preparation, and we're very happy to get this off the ground. And of course, that's one of our key initiatives going forward, encouraging members and non-members to use the tool in the national context.
Thank you so much, Alan. And really, if you will hear this bell, it means that the 2 minutes have already passed. But thanks a lot for being brief. Can we come back to the working group on investment in children, or we move on?
Really, if you will hear.
Yes.
Hi.
Agatha? Yes?
Okay. You're live, Agatha.
Hi. Hello. David, shall I put the slides on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh. Is it okay now?
Now it is.
Yes, and you have 2 minutes, Agatha. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I'm reporting on the working group on investment in children, which I'm co-chairing together with Marcelo Ventos from Red LAPIC. And since the adoption of the General Comment number 19 in 2016, the General Comment on Public Budgeting for the Realization of Children's Rights, the shift of the working group has moved more national advocacy strategy for change. Obviously, our main focus has remained the implementation of the General Comment number 19, but we also make great use of other policy guidance, including the EU recommendation on investing in children from 2013. And I'm happy here to share just a few highlights from the work of last year. We presented in February last year at the CRC committee. We presented the results from the 29 launch events all over the world of the UNCRC General Comment number 19, and the chair of the CRC committee congratulated our work and said that the methodology that we developed was very much inspired operational and would set standards for that general comment. We also were very proud because in Argentina in October, participants in a big global conference on investing in children signed a roadmap with simplified qualitative and quantitative indicators to capture investments and progress in spending for children in Latin America, which was a big step and commitment. And then we very much emphasize the capacity building aspect. Fundamentally, children need to have improved awareness of and capacity to influence on public investment in children using what the available tools are, primarily the General Comment 19 child-friendly version, but also in 2016 we produced a child-friendly version of the European Commission recommendation on investing in children. So this is part of our efforts towards capacity building of children themselves to advocate for better public spending and participatory budgets. And then just a quick zoom into one of our ongoing work, which is looking at influencing the post-2020 multi-annual financial framework, the post-2020 EU budgets. The negotiations are running, and we try to influence decision makers to include a clear focus on investment in children, so that the EU budget can look better for the coming years.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Agata, and thanks for being online because it's not easy. Really, thank you. The next working group...
Apologies for missing you all today.
Thank you. So the next working group is children of incarcerated parents. Yeah, you have 2 minutes also. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? So like I said earlier, over the last year, we worked a lot on the development of the questionnaire for the UN Global Study on Children Deprived of Their Liberty. The second chapter of this study will be on children of incarcerated parents. So, and as I say, the chapters are due to be drafted and finalized next year. So that will be our big kind of focus for next year. And we also did an intersessional briefing in February during the Human Rights Council session last year. That was on the Memorandum of Understanding that the Italian government has signed on the human rights of children of incarcerated parents. So we ran that. It was very well attended and had the ambassador from the Italian government speaking, and we also had 3 of our working group members, members from Paris and Argentina in Geneva for it, which was quite a big thing for the working group. Another thing was we held a briefing for the Committee on the Rights of the Child in June of last year about our theme and about our topic, and which went well, and also once again looking at submissions for the Committee on the Rights of the Child sessions and keeping our database of CRC recommendations up to date, which is a handy tool for people. Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sticking to even less than the 2 minutes. That's really appreciated. The next working group is on children and violence. I think, Elena, you're reporting?
I'm reporting. So thank you. Well, the working group has, during the last year, but particularly during the last year, strengthened the collaboration with the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children. And the working group has become the main focal point for the working group for the relations here in Geneva, organizational meeting with the missions. So that has been very important work for us, as well as strengthening the work with the Office of the Special Representative on Violence Against Children. We organized 2 events last year, one one very successful event during the 33rd session of the Human Rights Council on the protection of the rights of the child in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, which has been the main topic of the working group, emphasizing the 2030 Agenda, and as well the particular targets and goals of the related to violence against children. We had 80 participants and more than 25 missions participating. We organized another event on empowering children to safeguard and promote their rights to be protected from all forms of violence, and also with very good participation and sponsoring of several missions. We have strengthened the collaboration with several of the missions, particularly with the Mission Mexico, Sweden, Uruguay, and the permanent delegation to the EU. And we are looking into creating this group of friends, and we have strengthened and get more interest with missions, more than 20 permanent missions here in Geneva. We have helped also raise the visibility of the work of the different working group members. I think we have been very strategic on this during our events to make sure that we are raising the visibility of the work of the working group members, and this has been the main work. In terms of the challenges, just very quickly, of course, is maintaining the interest and the level of participation in the working group, but we have seen from last year to this year more interest from the working group members, creating a more participatory and inclusive process from all the members. Sometimes, two organizations are doing the events and this, so to be more inclusive, and the limited coordination we have had with the CRC. We have done some efforts to work together with the CRC, but this is something we see we need to strengthen more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I think it's really impressive to hear about all the work of these working groups. The next one is Children and Armed Conflicts. I think, Iman, it's you.
Yes,
2 minutes.
Children and Armed Conflicts. 3 points on achievements. Last year, we had a transition from the former SRSG, Laila Zerougi, to the new SRSG, Virginia Gamba. It's always quite exciting to see what the new person brings on board and how you can actually continue the relationships that you have developed with the former one. And the group managed those transitions well, and we still remain, and that is the second point, remain as far as we can tell, the acknowledged civil society entry point for both the SRSG as well as the group of friends. And the third point of achievement is that the group has actually grown with new members, including the CRIN, ECPAT, and Plan Sweden. Moving on to the challenges, we don't have a sign-off procedure, leading to certain initiatives that were quite fruitful but have not actually been able to be implemented as a working group. So some of those initiatives War Child had to take forward alone because we couldn't get it as a working group activity. The other one is the main Geneva Targets group of friends are not very effective in the sense that they're also still building up momentum, and they do not have as much pressure as you would expect from a group of friends. And then finally, the change of convenership from former convener to the new convener, time constraints, and the different objectives of the members make it difficult for the group to jointly advocate on thematic issues. So that's a summary.
Thank you so much, and thanks for outlining also the challenges. And we see that despite all these challenges, the working group are still making incredible work. So thank you. The last working group on the list is sexual exploitation of children. Catherine, you have the floor.
As I said this morning, we are only 1 year old. It's not an excuse, but yeah, it took us some time to get off the ground. Anyway, main achievement, finally, we are very clear priority around our vision. We have very clear term of references. This took time to put in place. We work very hard to kind of articulate a work plan for 2 years, which fits grounded into the Child Right Connect Secretariat work plan also, well, the Child Right Connect work plan. Within that, implementation of that work plan, which we initiated. One of the things that we can report as main achievement is that we have now initiated a good relationship, some relationship with the SRRG, specifically on CAC, and also the UN advocates on for victims of sexual exploitation. We had our first joint working group oral statement during the last Human Rights Council. And then we were able to articulate some kind of very clear priority for the rest of the year, May to December 2018. And then we can also report that we are really trying hard to have a synergy with the two working groups on VAC and also on children in armed conflicts. And we think that this is very good for the work that we have to do in the working group, and also we hope that we are also cross-fertilizing with these two working groups. In terms of challenges, they are almost the same as the others. One for us, of course, we didn't start working very fast as we planned. We think that we are too small for the scope of the issue. So we hope that we can have some more members joining us. Actually, we have one more who joined us today. And then we haven't been able to reach out to other stakeholders as we planned in our working group. We hope that we could do that for the rest of the year and onward. Thanks.
Thank you so much to all the working group conveners for your presentation and for all the time and the work you have put in the working groups, and thanks to all the members of the working groups too. And I really hope that the session of this morning will help the working groups to overcome their challenges, which are, I think, quite similar between the different working groups. Now, before we proceed to the adoption of the different reports, I would like first to give the floor to Alan for a news from 2017, I think. Well, you will see. It's an important news concerning one of the founders of Child Rights Connect.
Yes, as Ayla said, we had a great chance to celebrate and recognise the achievements of a particular individual last year, who was foundational in the creation of the convention, in the creation of the NGO group, in the creation of DCI, in the drafting of the guidelines for the alternative care of children. When Nigel Cantwell was honoured last year with an honorary PhD from the University of Strathclyde. So Dr. Cantwell, I presume, is now the way to greet him, although I'll be embarrassed if you do so. But we would not be, I believe we would not be sitting here without someone like Nigel Cantwell and the people who worked together with him in those days. So it's a lovely honour.
Yes, thank you, Alan. And I can only second what you said, that Nigel Cantwell really had a very important place in the history of Child Rights Connect. We will soon proceed to the vote of the reports, but before that, let me also give me a few announcements. Unfortunately, some of the great staff of Child Rights Connect have either left already or will soon be leaving. And we have Muriel, who has left and who has been with Child Rights Connect for a long time and who was so pivotal in doing the administration work of Child Rights Connect, and you may remember her from previous years, and she was really active in organizing the GA. We also have Fanny Pauline Barth, who has done so much work for resource mobilization of Child Rights Connect, and she has also left the Secretariat. And last but not least, we have our dear friend David Macadam, who will unfortunately soon leave the Secretariat. And David, I think I translate the feeling of all those who are here to thank you wholeheartedly for everything that you have brought to Child Rights Connect. I think we have seen again this morning the extraordinary website that you are leaving to us before leaving, and you have been always so helpful whenever we needed anything, and you have done that always with your incredible smile which we will terribly miss. So David, on behalf of Jared.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Would you like to say a few words? No? No?
No, really thank you very much to everyone. It's been a delight, and I'm really sad to leave you, but I'll do my utmost best to leave you with the proper tools to continue. And Child Rights Connect is a great organization, and it was a pleasure working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David, and we'll really miss you. So now we will proceed to the adoption of the reports. I think we need a formal vote for this one. Do we have our scrutinizers?
Yes.
Yes, we have our... Oh, thank you. Okay. So we'll proceed to the vote. Who is in favor of the adoption of the whole report of Child Rights Connect? Please raise your card. Ah, if she left. It's a good exercise to keep your card. Okay. Who is against? Please raise your card. Abstention? Do we have votes online? No?
We've got 6 participants online, but nobody is voting.
Okay. So I think the report of 2017 from Child Rights Connect is adopted unanimously. Thank you so much. And now, before closing this item, I would really like to thank you all the members of Child Rights Connect, the working groups, my colleagues in the executive committee, but also all our donors, our supporters, and all the fantastic volunteers who are here today and who have helped with the organization of the GA. I think all of us have our part in all the achievement and the success of Child Rights Connect. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all your involvement in Child Rights Connect, and we are looking forward to even more for the year to come. So thank you. So now I think we have finished with the item of annual report, and we will open a few items regarding finance. So I will give the floor to our treasurer, Alan, first of all for the financial statement and the auditor's report.
Okay, good afternoon again. This section will include 2 votes just to approve the audit, but also to reappoint a new auditor, and I'll go into some of that in some detail. Only to say that the audit itself is available on request, but to note that audit reports that were fully compliant with all legal and financial obligations, and the report itself made no specific recommendations for improvement, but also specifically noted that the recommendations in the previous audit had all been implemented successfully. So, from an audit perspective, all good news. So just very briefly, some overhead figures. Statements of income and expenditure for 2017. You can see that the income at the end of the year stood at 717,000 and that our expenditure rested at 1714. So there's a slight gain over the year of 3,000 francs. To break those expenditures down a bit and just look across 2016 and 17, you can see that our personnel overheads are sitting at 184,000. Our communications and network, we spent a lot on money, a good amount of money on this last year, is 125,000. Network management, so implementation costs, the General Assembly, the Exco took up 73,000. And the programs, implementation costs, capacity building, technical assistance and advocacy, we spent 330,000, giving us this total of 714, which of course overall is slightly less than the year before. To break those down in terms of income, we see across the 3 years, 15, 16 and 17, so the blue column is 2015, the red column would be 2016 and the green 2017. We can see that membership fees have increased slightly, that we can see that the grants from members are decreasing. We can also see that grants from government nominally stable, at least up to 2017. We can see that grants from foundations, especially and particularly in 2017, have taken something of a hit, which is something we were hoping, of course, to address with having Fanny on board through the year, but that hasn't transpired in the way we had hoped. And then you see a little bit of other income there. So breaking all that down just for 2017, very reliant on SIDA, very reliant on Norway, the Oak Foundation in Switzerland, pretty reliant on grants from members, and membership fees now constitute 8% of income, which if we think back to the discussions in previous GAs over the last 3-4 years, where we've stressed that we need to increase the membership fees income, making sure that all the members do pay their fees, which has been a long-standing issue, but also, as we voted last year, and I'll say more about that, to have a new fees structure. Total equity at the beginning of 2017 sat at 122,000. Total equity at the beginning of the year was 126,000. And of that, we have restricted capital of 37,000. However, this year, the Executive Committee are not asking for a vote to allocate money to reserves because the cash is needed to fund 2018 running costs. So there'll be no vote this year, as we've had in the past, to nominally to put any surplus in reserve. That's a quick overview of the financial report. Are there any specific questions on the figures, trends? Please.
I just have two questions. I would like to know more on the expenses with these lunch checks. What is this corresponding to? Because it's 15,000 in 2016, 12,000. And so I would like to know more about this. And the other question is that I see that the foundation's donation have been dropped, almost 50%. I see in the note that it's mainly Oak Foundation. And I would like to know if there is any explanation from Oak Foundation about the drop in the funding.
If it's going to work, yeah. Okay, thank you for the questions. So lunch checks, that is actually a scheme that we have with our staff, that a part of the salary is not paid as salary but as lunch checks, because that can be deduced from the taxes. So this is to counter a little bit the rather low salary scale that we have for our staff members. And that means if the lunch checks reflect exactly how many people we have in the team. We had long-term sick leave last year, which actually saved us in terms of income expenditure being even. And that's why the lunch checks are lower. Foundations, yes, exactly. The graph talking about the foundations, we have exactly one foundation. It's the Oak Foundation funding us. And this decrease is due to the fact that we had a 3-year grant from 2015, 16 and 17, in which we had negotiated to have a larger proportion in the first 2 years and a much lower in the 3rd year. So going in 2015, we had 200,000 francs, in 2016, 200,000 francs, and in 2017, 50,000 francs. So that was a big problem to balance that out. The idea had been in 2015 that with me coming in as a new director with a little bit of fundraising background, not too much, but that was quite a clear focus for my task, that I would be able to replace those 150,000 core funding through fundraising, which turned out not to be possible. Even last year, when we had really a fundraising professional coming in with FUNny, it turned out not to be possible. We'll talk about that more. Why haven't we been able to replace that? In terms of the continuation with Oak Foundation, we have a new grant started this year, another 3-year grant with an even distribution of the funds for 3 years. And then we will have, if everything goes well, we will have another grant of maximum 4 years, but that will be the last one. So with Oak, we have a perspective of another 6.5 years, and then we will have to find a way to replace this core funding.
I just wanted to ask about the membership donations, because I can see that you've increased it proportionately. There are more of the income is made up of membership donations, but in actual real terms, it's down by 4,500 Swiss francs as to how much membership donations are coming in. And so I wondered, have you reflected on the changes that were made last year in terms of the membership fee structure? Is that why it's gone down, or are you having problems collecting membership fees from us? And is there more that the members could be doing and should be doing to support you to ensure that you do have sufficient funding from membership fees?
I think there's always an argument for more support from members. I mean, yeah, that's been a long-standing discussion. Just reflecting on what you're asking about the new structure, of course, is to remember that one of the provisos in the new structure is that if the organisation provides an additional amount of money, the fees are consequently reduced or limited to 5,000. So if there's a 20,000 investment, the fees don't follow the structure anywhere beyond the 5,000 bracket. Certainly, thinking to my own organisation's experience, the money we've always given over the last 3 or 4 years is now more allocated to fees than additional contributions. So that would be reflecting the question you asked, where some of the money that certainly SOS provides has been now reallocated as fees as opposed to an additional contribution. I don't know if you have any you want to add?
Membership fees, actually, we don't see anything yet, because the new membership fee structure, it starts this year. Last year was still the old one, but Alan will present a more clear overview of the developments in terms of membership fees. One is, we started to collect them systematically. That had a big impact, and 2018 will also see a little bit of an impact due to the adaptation. But the grants for members, that's what you see going down from 2015 to 2016. It's basically one of our biggest members who is still one of our biggest donors as well. It's Save the Children, who used to contribute with a core grant from Denmark as well. We currently receive a core grant from Sweden and additional funds from Save the Children Sweden. And we used to have that also from Denmark. There was a political change in Denmark. They had changes in their own funding from their government, which ultimately reflected on us.
Are there any? Yeah. Are there any other questions before we move to an approval of the audit? If I see no hands, I propose we vote. Those in favour of accepting and approving the new audit, please raise your cards high and hold them up for a requisite amount of time for the counting to be completed. 36. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Approved. 36 votes to no objections. As I mentioned at the beginning also, we have a second vote in this section. We have come to the end of our 5-year relationship with our current auditor, and it's time to renew that with somebody else, somebody fresh, somebody new, to keep us on our toes and make sure we remain fully compliant. So, a call was issued by the Secretariat, by Beatrice, to 11 agencies, of whom 6 submitted notes of interest, proposals to take on the auditing of Child's Rights Connect. Those were discussed with the accountant, and 3 were shortlisted and had further discussions with Beatrice. In the end, from that process, Bernier Associés has been chosen as the new potential auditor for approval today. They provided an in-depth analysis of the situation, which was, I think, in your words, Beatrice, just better than everybody else's. They came across as very helpful, very collegial, so I think it's going to be a good relationship. And in actual fact, it's going to cost us less than we were paying before, so it seems like a bit of a win-win scenario. So we propose, the Executive Committee proposes to the membership that Bernier Associés be appointed here today as the new auditor for the first mandate in 2018 for a maximum of 5 years. All those in favour, please raise your green cards now. Hold them high. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Approved 33 votes. No. None against. No abstentions. And that concludes this part of the business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we move to the next part, I would like to thank again the Secretariat for managing the funds of Child Rights Connect, and a special thanks to our treasurer, who is doing such good work and is putting a lot of his time in this function. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again. Okay, so we still have one part before the coffee break, and it's the 2018 plan, budget and financial situation. And it's Beatrice who will lead us on that part. Thank you.
So thank you very much, everybody. When I prepared, or after I had prepared this slideshow for talking about the 2018 plans and budget, and I looked at the first slide, I thought, no, I don't want to start like that, because you will see this slide is full of numbers. I have to start with the budget, talking about the budget first. So I decided to remind ourselves why we are talking about this money and the budget and the planning and all these technical things, and to bring a smile on everybody's faces. It worked. So I'm really happy to remind ourselves why we are doing this work. It's really, the purpose and the cause for children's rights and for children. So this is also to have you a little bit positive when I have to talk about more difficult things just now. So as I said, I will have to start talking about the budget and financial situation before I talk about the plans, because they have the financial situation has significantly influenced of had a significant influence on what we can do this year. What happened? So first of all, here is the original budget that we had developed last year together with the working groups and everyone else. We had developed the something is wrong. We had developed the annual plan and the budget, and we had said we need roughly 910,000 francs to implement all our plans with the DGD project and all the other great things happening, website, etc. At that point, we had 535,000 secured income, so more than 50%, which I can say in the situation of Child Rights Connect, it's not too bad to have more than 50% already before the year starts. And we had a projected likely income of 797,000, or almost 800,000, which would have left us to have to raise a bit more than 100,000 to meet this overall budget. Absolutely something rather actually a good situation for us if we compare to previous years. So that's what our executive committee approved. Unfortunately, we got bad news in December. We had applied for a continuation of the core funding for 3 years with Norway, who had been substantively supporting us with core grant for 3 years of roughly 150,000. We had applied for that. We were quite positive that it will be continued. And we thought in the worst case, maybe they only give us a 1-year phase out or something. But what actually happened, they discontinued that funding as of January, which meant that in this calculation that we had an additional 150,000 francs core funding. Salaries, office costs were missing. And we ended up with this situation that now the difference that we needed to raise is more than 250,000 francs. Since January, actually even for 2 years already, but in January, of course, due to this situation, we put increasing efforts in trying to raise the missing funds. And I'm not going to go into the details here. This is just to demonstrate to you a few of the examples of what we tried, who we approached, and what were the results. Of course, you can see everything in red is a no. And you can see that when we look at, we approached many states and we approached many foundations. When we look at the foundation side, yes, it's been very frustrating and very difficult for Fanny, who has been leading the team in reaching out to all these foundations. A few of those are still open options. We are still trying, obviously, but we can see that it seems to be very difficult for Child Rights Connect, for the kind of work that we do, to get funding from foundations and other funders. From the state side, we have a few that are in red. We have a few that are in black, meaning we can still approach them. There's possibilities in the future, but at the moment we have no funding from them. And there is one single success that we had in all of these efforts, and that is Ireland, who is going to fund the publication for the DGD. So they're giving us roughly 17,000 francs for direct project costs. That means all the core funding, all the office costs and salaries are still missing. And this is the explanation why David is going to leave us. This is the explanation why Fanny has left us. And this is the explanation why we are working without a finance and administration officer since January. So, yeah, it's a very difficult situation. Just to share a few of the reasons that we have heard from all the potential donors that we have approached. We fund human rights, we don't fund children's rights. There is a very big sectorization in the donor community and donor landscape between children's funding, or funding for children, and funding for human rights. And we get this really explicitly as in emails, on the phone, in meetings, that people say, we do not fund children's rights, we fund human rights. And of course we argue that children's rights are human rights, but this is a fact at the moment in the donor landscape. It's nothing we can change quickly. Maybe we can think about influencing that in the long term. Then lots of donors want to fund work on the ground, not international advocacy. Then what we heard several times is we support children's rights through UNICEF. So, for example, that was one of the arguments from Norway. They kind of wanted to point out to us that children's rights are important to Norway. And they said they are giving the money to UNICEF, who can absorb a bigger grant than we can. And then, of course, what's also specific about our budget, you saw that before in the report also presented by Alan, we have a lot of implementation costs, and the implementation cost is a nicer word for salaries. We are a secretariat. We don't need much money for direct costs, except for the GA, where we have some food and a room. But in general, what the main costs that we need to cover are salaries, office, really ongoing. And that is not very attractive for many donors. And then also that was actually the main reason why Norway discontinued the funding, is that they want to give, or they have to give bigger grants to bigger organizations in order to decrease their own overhead of the management. So we hear back that your work is very interesting, it's great, it's very important, but we haven't been able to identify who are the donors, apart from the ones that we already have, who could actually give for that work that we are doing. So far, we can say close to no success. So what does it mean? We had to, of course, redo the whole planning and budgeting, and this gives you a little just comparison of what came out of the originally planned 910,000. We are now down to 664,000. And we have more secured income, you can see that. So we have been successful, but how? Since November, what have we been able to secure? Are 18,000 francs from Ireland that I just talked about for the specific project costs, plus 90,000 from membership fees and additional contributions from members. So that's where we had a reaction. Everything else was impossible. So that now you can see that we have still about 20,000 missing in order to get through with this budget. And I can say this budget is the minimum of the minimum that we could do. We really deleted everything additional. Some of you know that we negotiated with you. Can you pay your own flight? Can you? We can't, unfortunately, help you with anything. That's really that's the situation.
But can you maybe specify more on what was cut? Particularly, I know that salaries were cut, but more in particular, what was cut?
Three positions. Of course, not for the whole year, because we had the administration officer until mid-February. Fanny worked until end of last month, and David will be here until end of May. So we had some time where we had more salaries, but that's the main thing. We have increased costs in professional services because we have to, of course, have an accountant. Accounting work is really, nobody in the team left is an accountant, and we need a professional accountant to make sure that the numbers are in place. So we had to increase that budget line. We cut all. We cut some costs in the DGD project and really reached out to the members saying, you have to make sure that you pay for the children and accompanying adults coming to Geneva. We cannot raise funds for that. So the bits and pieces there, no further education for staff members, all of these things were cut. Yeah. Any other questions at this point? Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to join my voice to those who congratulated the the Secretariat for the great work that have been doing through the leadership of Beatrice, and also the work that is done through the working groups. I share the frustration sometimes that it's difficult sometimes to raise the money that we want to raise in order to achieve our goals. I would like to know if with the new website it's not possible to explore the possibility to do fundraising through the website. Is it something that has been explored already, or something that maybe we should think about? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that idea. It has been integrated. I think it has already come from different discussions we had with all of you in previous General Assemblies, and we have taken that up. It's on the new website. Actually, David will present in more detail the new website after my presentation, so you will see a little bit more. And tomorrow morning, we will also discuss with you further on how can we ensure that the work of the Secretariat can be sustained in a more sustainable way, or if that is not possible, what should the Secretariat do if it can't do everything that it's doing now? But we will really have a workshop on that tomorrow. I think that's important, and there you can also share some more of your ideas. Now I would like to present to you what are we going to do in 2018? How is that affecting the plan? You've all received the annual work plan. End of last year, we shared that again. We offered a webinar to discuss it, and we sent it again shortly before the GA, just as a reminder. And I would just want to go through of what we are going to work on in 2018, sorry, going back, and what has already been done. So, Human Rights Council. We had planned, and we are going to implement, or have already implemented, our network approach towards the Human Rights Council work. We have done the coordination on the annual day and resolution on the rights of the child in humanitarian situations, including a side event, and the preparations for next year are already ongoing. Coordination, influencing the theme, and all of this work, it's ongoing. Yes, we're also working, as was mentioned this morning by Ilaria already, we're engaging on this work on civil society space resolution for children, that's what it should say. Civil society space for children in relation with our work on the DGD and children as human rights defenders. And what we would like to do also this year, we'll try to see, we need a little bit of volunteer support for that, to make the information on how to engage in the Human Rights Council accessible on the new website. A bit more practical information, like the one that we have on CRC reporting. So, everything as planned. Also, we continue to work with the Committee on the Rights of the Child. So this is an ongoing work. We continue to support any civil society organization actors who want to cooperate with the CRC reporting. Members or non-members, you know, we are in contact with with everyone from all over the world. Some of you have worked with us on that, so this is an ongoing work which we are continuing. Then this is done in cooperation with OHCHR and UNICEF. And this also includes this task force on the simplified reporting procedure. That's ongoing work. We have updated the fact sheets on the DGDs and the general comments. They are going to be accessible on the website as well. And we continue to work on strengthening the committees and its working methods. Committee strengthening how? Through engaging in the CRC elections, promoting good candidates, sharing, making information about good candidates accessible, and also doing advocacy to states to support the best qualified candidates. What aren't we doing? We didn't succeed, for example, one thing that was in the annual plan, we wanted to have children's participation at the Human Rights Council, with children in the panel. We didn't succeed in that, but that has nothing to do with our financial situation. All the work around that was done. We didn't succeed, but we're not giving up. So this is not only depending on the work that we are all doing together, whether that is successful or not. We continue the work on children's participation, one of our main overall themes. What we want to do is we want to compilate practices and recommendations on children participation at the UN. We have a project for children's participation in the UPR, together with UPR Info and many of the members as well. So everything that I am saying here, what is new is not the Secretariat doing things. It's always implying a lot of you working together in these projects. And of course, the big highlight has been mentioned already is really super high level children's participation at the DGD. Not only at the DGD, but in the whole project. And children really shaping the project leading up to the DGD. And another very important area of work is our work in treaty body strengthening. This mainly with the TB nets. It has been mentioned by Annabelle before that last year we founded this network of treaty body organizations that are working closely with different treaty bodies, and that's the TB net. And jointly we are working on the treaty body elections and on harmonization of working methods, including children's participation in the treaty bodies. So that's our focus. Also, we want to work much more broadly with the treaty bodies. Rather than just on the CRC, the treaty bodies are an entry point for children's rights, all of them. All of them are relevant for children as well. And that again goes back to our overall vision that we have to strengthen the understanding of children as human rights. But the main project is this. I don't know if I need to mention many things about it, but I'll still go through. It's the main project this year, and as we mentioned already, with a plan to continue working on this theme. So we have set up a global network project with members and many other partners from around the world, experts, organizations in Geneva and other places. We've set up this children's advisory team, and then this is leading up to the day of general discussion in September. In the frame of this project, we are achieving actually a lot of other aims that we had scattered here and there in the work plan. They are now kind of accumulating in this project. For example, to have a children's advisory group team for Child Rights Connect in the future. It was mentioned before that this is an idea. Of course, we don't know yet how this is going to look like. First, we have to do this project with this new experience, but this is really the vision that we want to have children more institutionally in Child Rights Connect in the future. And then also the DGD children's participation working methods. This has been something that we had on our plans for some time, and now it is materializing with this project. And then this project is really also a test case, not only in how we work together as a global network, but also how this integrates our work with all human rights mechanisms. So it's not anymore just on the CRC, and then maybe something separate on the HRC. It's really linking this whole theme through the different mechanisms. Yes, the CRC is the main one for the DGD, obviously, but also we're working with the special rapporteurs and with the Human Rights Council, the states, linking this to the civil society space discussion. So this is, I think, best example of this integrated approach that we have developed in the past years and is now taking shape in this exciting project. In red, an important element of this project, which is still open, whether we can do it or not, depends on whether we can find the funding. We would like to do an exhibition on the topic of children human rights defenders to make the topic more tangible, also to have it there at the UN for 2 weeks, a little bit a longer time, which gives people time to reflect and look and read and find out, and which would also be something that we can replicate, for example, next year for the 30th anniversary, to use it in Geneva and other places to talk about this issue. But we don't have the funding for that. So this is not included in this minimum budget that I presented before. So, and a few other things that we sometimes forget to talk about, but they're just as important for Child Rights Connect and for being a successful organization. We are in the process of setting up a bigger executive committee. As you've seen, we have so many applicants of really very renowned people who are ready to work with us on the executive committee, to give their time, their expertise to Child Rights Connect. I think that is something we are hopefully voting for this to happen today, and then it will take us some time to set that up and make it functioning. It will be the biggest EXCO we ever had, I believe. I don't know the whole history of EXCO, but it seems we will be at the at the maximum level. Then a big task in the lead of the executive committee, but of course with the support of the members, is to develop the new strategy, which has to be in place by next year, General Assembly, so that we can start the implementation in 2020 to 2024. And of course, also important in this relation is the negotiations of new grants with CIDA. We have a 3-year grant with CIDA, which is ending this year, which means we don't know. CIDA, as you know, is our biggest donor. We don't know what is the level of funding we can count with next year. And the same for Switzerland, ending of a 2-year grant. So what are we not doing? In terms of the program work, we are practically implementing everything that was originally planned. Only a few things were cancelled. One thing was the member training. We were supposed to do that on Monday, yesterday. We cancelled that because we needed to focus on other things. Update of CRC reporting guide for children is in the plan. We still have to do that, but it's not very likely that we can do it this year. So rather, we will postpone that. OPIC ratification toolkit and commentary, developing programmatic approach to OPIC. Not realistic with a smaller team. The work that we had planned on the SDGs is cancelled. And the work on the protection of the family issue we have deprioritized. We cannot take this kind of leading role as we had started a few years ago. So in terms of program, I mean, these are small things we can say that we are not doing. We're practically doing everything that was planned. But what are we not doing? For example, we can't do the translations for the website. It's going to be in English. And there is some Google Translate, which, you can have a look. I'm not very happy about them. Maybe it helps, but it doesn't really look very nice to have Google translations. And other communications with materials, we can't develop much. And what the main thing that we can't do is we can't do any fundraising, or not much. Because what is in the budget is this. I mentioned it before, we had to discontinue 3 positions. We already worked with 1 position less in 2017. That was foreseen because of that decrease in the grant with Oak, which we knew beforehand. So we already knew that we have to cut 1 post in 2017, which we did. So we were 7 people last year. And this is what we are going to be as of June. The green squares are the permanent staff. So it's myself, and then we have Emma, the program officer, we have Ilaria, senior program officer, and Fanny, program assistant, who are going to remain. We've been lucky to find an interim solution for the communications with Eleanor. She's here. She started yesterday. who is a no-cost solution for Child Rights Connect to have a professional working with us for up to 6 months. I'm trying to find the same for fundraising, but it's very difficult to find qualified staff, qualified people in this program, apparently. We are working with interns. We have Anna here. She's maybe not in the room right now, fetching the wine, I think. So she's actually working mainly on the DGD project, but also helped a lot with communications and events here around the GA. And we have Enzo, our intern. The internship of Enzo is an ongoing one, so that's not an additional one. What is additional is the communications intern, and then of course we have the 3 permanent staff missing. Yeah, so that's the situation. And of course, what does it mean? If we, I'm using an image to illustrate the situation of Child Rights Connect. So we have this beautiful tree with wonderful leaves, maybe even some fruit. It's the integrated approach to strengthening children's rights and at and through the United Nations human rights mechanisms that we have developed in the past years. It's all of the work that we do as a network, we do with members, we do with your capacities, your expertise, we bring that together. And we are approaching the UN as a whole system rather than different entry points without any links. This has also been mentioned by Annabelle in the report, and I think that's really something we can't underestimate how important that is and how much value is in this that has been developed. And of course, some of the fruits that I mentioned before, these are the plants, children's participation at UPR, the working groups, working with civil society from around the world for CRC reporting. This is all what we are doing this year and what we have developed in the past years to have this integrated approach. This tree is standing in very rich ground, I would say, with excellent partners. They are our friends. We can really feel the support that, we hear, your situation is terrible, we need you, and people start to formulate the added value of Child Rights Connect. So we have learned a lot about that due to the situation. And it's the CRC committee, it's the OHCHR, it's TBNet, this new network, it's states with whom we're working very closely, it's existing long-term donors and potential new donors. So there is a big ground. There should be more. Numerous other partners, NGOs and international organizations, and of course the members of Child Rights Connect. That's the ground in which this tree stands. So that looks all very good. And you will see this year we will have, I'm sure we will have a wonderful, very successful DGD, the greatest DGD ever, as Ilaria said. That's our ambition, and I join her with that, and I'm very confident it will be. So we should pay attention that this tree is going to have wonderful fruits, but we shouldn't be deceived. Because what we have done now, what we were forced to do now, was to cut the tree kind of just at the roots. Communications officer not here anymore. Finance administration officer not here anymore. Director resource development not here anymore. These are the people who were digging in that ground and bringing up the nutrition, or how do you call it, the food, the water and the food for the tree. They are gone. That's the situation. And we need to discuss together on how are we going to ensure that this tree doesn't die after the 28th of September when we've had our day of general discussion. We need to jointly look into the future. How can we replace these roots that have been cut with, there is so much around. So it's not that there is nothing to build on. It's not hopeless. And on the contrary, I think it's really amazing what is there. Look at all our friends, how can we mobilize them? And with you, we want to discuss tomorrow, basically, how we can mobilize ourselves as a network to make sure that the tree is not going to die because of this situation this year. And I think two things I would like to add here, as mentioned already before, also by Yao, that the new website is maybe something that leaves some of the roots that when David is leaving are not there anymore. He's leaving this website. I think this is a great resource to build on. We have to think about and be aware of that and really start using it for the working groups, for the membership, for fundraising. And the other one, I'm very hopeful with the strengthened EXCO that we also have more human resources there to help us with volunteer work, basically, in the end. Low cost, but high expertise. Yeah, that was my presentation. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, please.
Thank you so much, because you spoke from the heart. You're very true, and my heart goes out to you.
Thank you.
Because all organizations are facing the same problem at a different stage. I get the same replies. I have a small foundation for women's, rural women's and children's rights. I can write a book about the challenges that you just described. The Swiss government says, we have stopped funding any civil society project. We are only giving to UN Women and to UNICEF. UN Women, Swiss government gives 13 million a year. It just gave 50 million in addition. Okay. I'm not criticizing, I'm glad they have it, they're doing good work. But this trend needs to be denounced. And Madame, you're standing in front of your solution. Turn around. You see the Club Suisse de la Presse. You need to give a press conference. I come with you, and all of you. And we need to challenge this, because there is so much money for defense. Every single country in the world has increased defense budget. But to make my speech short, I propose that you launch a global partnership for Child Rights Connect. The global partnership for the rights of the child, which we have just all started to support, is great, but it really is funding for UNICEF. And I know UNICEF needs 10 times as much as it has. But we need to also create funds that allow us to do what you plan, because your ideas are great, and also for us to develop how do we reach the civil society that supports civil society interventions, because it's still considered as not secondary, because the big ones are so big, and like you said, they can only give to big ones. So I know.
Thank you very much. That's already a very concrete idea. I hope you will join us tomorrow for the workshop, because we will talk exactly about this. What can we do together?
If this is not becoming a citizen problem, you will never reach it. Thank you.
Thank you for that idea and statement.
Thank you. I have two questions and one comment. One question is for Beatrice regarding the projection of the current funding and what you have secured for how many years. It's only for 1 year, so that we can see also the sustainability in maybe the short term. And the second question is for the executive committee. It's if you have done already some reflections on the situation, what can be done, mobilizing your own constituencies, because from my understanding, the EXCOM has a big responsibility, of course, in this situation, and because I hear, the Secretariat, all these efforts, and I would like to see what the EXCOM is doing to raise funding for Child Rights Connect. So that's my second question, and just a small comment regarding what Ellie was saying. Well, I don't think we need to create a global partnership. I think there are too many already. But I do think that working closely with the governments is important, because we see them as donors, but we should see them more as partners. And I think that it's better in the longer term. If you see other networks and organizations that work closely with governments, the funding becomes more sustainable because they are part of strategizing, of working with them, and then they fund some of the activities. So maybe that's something we should think about.
Okay. The discussion is already starting, which is great. I hope you are all there tomorrow. We will talk more about that. Basically, for the secured funding, I will also repeat that again tomorrow, because we have other people joining us tomorrow. But basically, for next year, what is secured is 150,000 francs from Oak and the membership fees, which is around 80,000. So 230,000, that's yeah. Even if we've managed to double that and, you know, continue some funding from CEDA and Switzerland, which is not clear, we would not be able to retain what remains here on the plan with the 4 staff. And then we have to really see if we can't have 2 program officers, we can't do this kind of work. It's already just amazing what this program team is doing. You wouldn't understand how they work, and how with all the information that they're bringing together, they're still even being creative. I find that absolutely amazing. And yeah, and it's just physically not possible to do that with fewer people. There should be even more to do that, because I'm not sure how long human beings can sustain this pace of work that my team is showing. So that's for the funding security. We'll talk more about that and the other prospects that we have in terms of trying to find joint funding with TBNet, for example, talking to UNICEF, because if we get the answer from donors that they gave it to UNICEF to fund children's rights, we need to see if we can. But those are all, I'm saying this as really as something we have to explore. And in the end, we don't know if we can be successful, because we are not the powerful in this game.
To answer for EXCO, yes, of course, the financial situation has been our #1 concern for years, and there is a lot of measures which we have taken and which we continue to take, and the workshop of tomorrow, when we will discuss about resource mobilization, is also part of that. We have done several things. First of all, for the membership fee, you know, and chasing more systematically the membership fee, all the question of increasing them, that was one part of what we did. We also tried to reach out more to more organizations, so as to have new members, and also members who are large and who contribute significantly. So that was another part of what we did, you know, developing our outreach. And what we did also is to think about how we can bring new funding to Child Rights Connect by approaching our own donors and you know, explaining about Child Rights Connect, and also an idea is to reflect on how, when an organization is making a proposal to a donor, how can this organization include also a part on global advocacy and include Child Rights Connect in these proposals. So there is a long series of reflection that we have started and that we will continue. And tomorrow again we have this workshop on resource mobilization, and it's part of our reflection, and we hope that innovative new solution will also be discussed tomorrow coming from the members. I don't know if, yes, please add. Annabelle?
Yeah, thanks, Ella. And I think it's a really important point that you raised. I mean, ultimately, yes, we are responsible, and absolutely that is why we are here. In addition to the points that Ayla has raised, each one of us as members of EXCO, and we are only partly represented here today, we have made a long list of all the donors, foundations, private donors that we are all aware of or that we could reach out to, and we have we had a long action plan of actions that as individuals we are going to take or we have taken. And I think that has been completed now. And unfortunately that hasn't been successful, but if you want to see evidence of what we did, I'm sure we might be able to make that available if people are interested to see that. In addition, I think what we've been able to identify this year is that within our team in EXCO, we actually lack some fundraising expertise. And so to address that, we have co-opted Stephen Langton, who joined us in March, who comes from the private sector with a wealth of experience in fundraising, and already he's starting to help us think around how we can think differently around fundraising. Sorry, Anna.
Yeah, and only to add what Annabelle was saying, this is one of the reasons we're looking to strengthen quite obviously with a large incoming number of people into the EXCO, with a view to backing up Steve and actually establishing a task force within the EXCO for fundraising. So and also to recall, of course, that during last year, at the behest of the Oak Foundation, we all participated in the Emerge programme, but the conclusions from that were a little less than, well, as Beatrice alluded to earlier, there's really only the Oak Foundation and Wellspring that fund this kind of work. There aren't not that many doors to knock upon, unfortunately, and for all the same reasons that Ellie's outlined and Beatrice has outlined. But we're strengthening the EXCO with a particular emphasis on this very point, and that's why we want to welcome so many new members in later today.
It's just a brief reflection, which I know we'll go into in more detail tomorrow. But firstly, my heart goes out to all the staff team at Child Rights Connect, because the work that you do is so valuable for our work at a national level to promote and implement the UNCRC. And I don't know what we would do without you. And so that sets me thinking that the solution is actually, it's not behind you necessarily, Club Suisse. The solution's here, we're the solution. And we've spent all morning talking about the value of Child Rights Connect, of the working groups, and all the work that you do that supports us in our role to fulfil the UNCRC. And so it's down to us, it's down to the membership. And I hate the kind of burden of kind of responsibility and guilt that's going onto the staff team and on the EXCO. If we want Child Rights Connect to continue, the membership has to establish the worth of Child Rights Connect, talk about it to our partners, talk about it to our children's commissioners, talk about it to our missions. If we all manage to raise even say €500 each, that's the deficit gone. There's 50 organisations here. That would be 25,000 Swiss francs just for Swiss francs for every organisation here. So we only need to do a little, and it'll help Child Rights Connect a lot. So I think between now and tomorrow, we all need to go back and rather than thinking, what's Child Rights Connect going to do about this? We need to be thinking, what are we going to do about this? We're the ones with our national contacts. We're the ones who benefit from Child Rights Connect. So we should be the one who are really supporting you to find a solution to this.
Thank you very much, Juliet. And Juliet is talking also from experience. So we're working together on the task force for the DGD, which has actually been a best case experience that shows us in the Secretariat, if we work collaboratively like this, we are really creating ownership among the members for what we are doing, and it's becoming really a network project. Then members are also able to raise funds. We have, in the frame of this project, actually received additional funds from members. That's the success that I showed in the beginning, and basically from Save the Children and Plan International, who are already contributing with core funds for Child Rights Connect, but they could also mobilize additional funds for this specific project. And Together Scotland has been very active to help mobilize 2 potential donors in Scotland, with which we are still hopeful that something will come out. We still haven't got the answer. But even if not all approaches to donors are successful, but if every member is approaching 2 donors in this way with a concrete project, and we have 100 donors approached with 100 concrete things, and we get 5. That helps us. That makes the difference. And we have to be realistic. Fundraising is very difficult. It doesn't happen from you write a proposal and you have the money. It is not like that. And just to go back to our tree, it's now not enough anymore to provide me with names and introductions to potential donors, because we don't have the capacity to manage all of that ourselves. We need members, EXCO members, other friends to actually do the fundraising for us, with us. Of course, we are there, we are going to join for the meetings, but we can't write 100 proposals. We don't have the people for that anymore. So that's I think what changed. The red part, it's there, we have to deal with that, and it's not enough anymore to give us good contacts, which we tried in the past 2 years with little success. Davinia, did you want to say something?
Sorry, thank you very much, Davinia from Save the Children. I just wanted to reiterate Save the Children's support to Child Rights Connect and all the work you've been doing over the years. We're here, to try as hard as we can to try to support you throughout this whole process. I also want to flag, we have this fantastic opportunity with the 30th anniversary of the UNCRC, and tomorrow we'll be discussing that. This evening we have a reception with Jean Zermatten and members of the committee. This is really the key moment for fundraising for Child Rights Connect, and in terms of profiling Child Rights Connect and its work also in Switzerland, in Geneva. This is where the Declaration on the Rights of the Child was drafted, the convention was adopted. There is a real moment here, to profile Child Rights Connect with the Swiss government. So I encourage you, and we're there to support you, to really try to use this to leverage your work.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I give the floor to David, who will present the website, which, as we said, is really one of the promising measures which can help the financial situation of Child Rights Connect and much beyond
that. Wow. So, yeah, as you heard, this website is a bit my swan song. But I mean, I really, because it's not I, in fact, it's all of us together. There were plenty of contributors. And this is really a network project. The working groups gave so much material for this new website. And basically, in fact, what happened during the last weekend is we launched the website. So now it's out there. It's public, it's visible, but it's up to all of us and up to all of you, in fact, to make it live. So just going to take a few minutes to walk you through briefly. This is a new website. Basically, in fact, the mandate was pretty clear. Child Rights Connect had an old website that everybody said it looked great. And it was pretty, but the information wasn't there. We didn't have any cookie policy, so we were kind of losing ranking on Google. We weren't as visible as we could be. We weren't able to modify menus, templates, and it wasn't at all user-friendly. It wasn't as bad as OHCHR's website, but it was sometimes difficult to find the proper information. So what we tried to do with this new website is to correct these issues and to have a website that is 2018 compatible, that has this look and feel of what we all want on websites. So the main things is that the website now is responsive. It means you can watch the website, browse the website on any device, which wasn't the case before. We've got adaptive menus. And of course, I love it. There are display issues. Yeah, unfortunately, moving from this beamer, I don't know why. In fact, now the menus are, yeah, as you see here. In fact, like you see it on the beamer, doesn't do it justice. For some strange reason, it's just like if you were to watch it on your mobile phone. But that shows that it's responsive and that you see the menus like they are on the mobile phone. But basically, so we've got all of the menus. We've got the who we are, where we can navigate, go right in detail of who we are. And the whole idea is when you look at this website to get as much information as possible. We've worked on what we call a 10,000-foot view. It's when you're on the home page to have everything at a glance just by browsing down the page. And we tried, of course, to have more pictures. So for pictures, infographics when possible, some small animations to make it more lively. And yeah, you can continue browsing. You've got all of the information at kind of one glance. And it's not, in 2018, the websites are not, I click and I go from one link to the other. It's, I browse down. So this is what we've tried to do in this new website. So we've got infographics. We've got member space that we talked about this morning, linked to the working groups. So the member space or member area is, okay, really important for working groups, but it's as well going to be important for all of the members. A key issue that was raised during the last 2 General Assemblies is we should provide spaces to allow for information sharing and to avoid having to chase people to get the information. So this new website is going to do that. It's going to make sure that we share the information. We will ask you as members to provide us information to keep this website lively. We mentioned a few times today already, I heard member news, use the member news to share information. That is something that we've integrated in this website, is that in fact the member news is going to be linked directly in the website, meaning that when we publish some news on the website, it's going to go out once a week in a member news directly to all of the members. And we strongly encourage you, I mean, I can't stress it enough, is basically this website is a tool that, that we are providing, and it's up to all of us, up to all of you to make it live. So, I mean, if you've got information to share, share it and use the tool to the best of our capacities. Yeah, please use the tool. We mentioned, so I think it was Yao that pointed out the donate issue. So yes, of course, we've got now direct access on the website to a donate solution. So it wasn't the case before. Now we've got a small plugin that allows us to accept donations on the website. It's a tool that we have to have there. So it's provided. We will see how many donations we actually get, but at least it's there on the website to provide the tool, to provide funds. Just to show you, in fact, what we did is that you probably have seen that on other organizations. I mean, we didn't reinvent the wheel. So we've got different one-off donations that you can make. What does 100 francs give you? But so it allows us to provide remote coaching of a child to prepare the reporting to the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child, and etc. So we've tried to break down in understandable terms what donations could give. Still have to mention one thing that Beatrice pointed out that isn't as bad. Is, okay, so we don't, so Child Rights Connect is suffering from funding, I mean, issues. My post is disappearing, it's no secret. So we had to cut down, of course, translation costs, because having proper translations costs a lot of money. So what we did is that we went with a Google plugin, so at least if ever people that are in non-Anglophone countries who speak other languages are not fluent in English, at least they can have a basic understanding through the Google plugin of what is on the website. We've even managed to correct, now Child Rights Connect in all languages appears properly. No, because of course, like all launches of websites, there's small issues, and we correct them as they come. So yeah, the Google Translate is not perfect, but we're getting there. And so I really strongly encourage you, go on this website, have a look at it, browse it. It's not a finished product. It hopefully never will be. If you've got any remarks, issues, please send them back to me and to the Secretariat. So, this website was built kind of brick by brick, layer by layer, and we can modify everything according to the needs of the network. So this is it.
Congratulations, David. I think it's an incredibly beautiful website. And as you have all heard, please use it and please use it. And the more we will use it, and the more it will be useful. So thank you. I think if there is no more question and we are a bit behind schedule, I would just like, to make a few words of conclusion, and then we can approve the plans also. So we have seen that we are really in a difficult time, and that we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. But we have also seen that we have strong plans for 2018. We have a promising, we shall have a promising larger EXCO in a few minutes. We have a fantastic website which will help for the outreach of Child Rights Connect. And I'm very grateful to Davinia to remind us that we sit in a special place for children's rights, which is Geneva, and which is a historical city which have seen the birth of children's rights. So we have a lot of assets, even if we have to face difficult timing, and we really need the support of all of you. Child Rights Connect lives through its members, so we really need your support for that. And let me recall again that tomorrow we have a very important workshop on strengthening Child Rights Connect and resource mobilization, and we are really hopeful that some very good ideas will come out of the workshop and will be implemented by the members. So we are in a difficult situation, we need you, and we have promising plans. And please be here tomorrow and share your good ideas with us. Thank you so much. Now, before closing this session, I think we need just to approve the plans for 2018. We don't need a vote, but can we just take it that these plans that were presented by Beatrice are approved by consensus? Yes? I hear yes? Okay. Thank you so much. And now we will go for a shortened coffee break, I'm afraid. 10 minutes? 10 minutes coffee break?
Very quick.
Yes, and thank you really for your support and being there. Thank you. have two parts, one on members, and afterwards, at the end of the meeting, we will have the elections of EXCO. So I will give the floor to our treasurer, Alan, for two parts on membership fee and termination of membership and resignation.
Thank you, Ayla. There we go. Thank you, David. Thank God David's here because I'm such a techno peasant. I've never been able to work all that out. So I'd be standing here like an idiot just going, please work, please. So, yeah, as Ayla said, this section's on membership fees and termination of memberships. If we go back just to some of the discussion earlier today, but also last year's discussion around the change to the membership fee structure, just to say a couple of things about that. One I've already said, but of course some members are more affected than others by this change, and those issues were raised in last year's in the last year's GA, and the EXCO took a flexible approach to this question and has negotiated with some of those members who were most affected. And I'm not going to go into those details because some of those discussions are still ongoing, but we are talking about 2 or 3 members, 4 members at maximum. But of course, also just to reiterate the idea that we want to use this as an opportunity to generate funds through projects, our core funding, and to say that organisations who donate or contribute to projects in excess of 20,000 would then have their fees capped at 5,000 over and above that donation or that project funding. We remain open and flexible to discuss particular cases or concerns, but for now, just to reiterate, this is indeed the new structure that we will continue to move forward with. Just to go into some detail, for those of you who know me and have seen me present on this question before, you'll know that my love affair with the membership fees is long-standing and devoted. If we go into some detail here, we see in 2016 that we received 65,367 in membership fees, which makes it look like we've gone backwards. But in actual fact, a lot of that number in 2016 was about the campaign to collect fees for 2014, 15 and 13 that were all outstanding. So a reasonable amount of that money collected in 2016 actually related to previous years. That was a long-standing letter writing and emailing campaign. So we then see 2017, where we have 71 paid-up members out of 75. Never before in the history of this network have we achieved that kind of uptake. 4 non-paying members, and only to note that all of those lie in the 150 franc bracket, the lowest of the what word? Scale. Thank you very much. The lowest in the scale. So this is amazing. Then that represents income at 60,867. But if we then come to 2018 and the definite and more avowed campaign to reach out, send invoices, remind members to pay their fees, we see that already at this point in the year we have exceeded 61,000 in membership fees. But only to note that's come from 47 members. Depending on the discussions with some of those more affected, as I've already alluded to, there's a reasonable amount more money that may be allocated to fees in this case. But to respond to Juliet's question earlier, has this affected fees payment in any way? I had a look at what's not been paid so far this year. So if we have 27 or 28 non-paying members, take away the small handful that negotiations are going on with, 21 of them lie in the 150 bracket and were not affected by the change in the fee scale. 3 or 4 lie in the 500 bracket. One of them is affected, and a discussion is ongoing between Beatrice and that member as we speak. So in terms of the upper end of the scale, it's not had a dreadful impact. If anything, it has enhanced the situation. In fact, of course, this long-standing love affair of mine with the fees does mean, again, that it's emailing and writing letters repeatedly over the next few months simply to get 150 francs over the door, which is not great in of itself on an individual basis, but it still represents a potential 3,000 francs in total. But I think, to answer your question earlier, the real problems still lie with the general kind of failure to pay at the lower end of the scale. So that's where we stand with regards to membership fees over the last 3 years in the current situation. And that brings us to terminations of memberships. Unlike previous years, we're not bringing any memberships to a vote for termination on any basis at this point. Only to note, of course, that the 4 non-paying members from 2017, who would have had no voting rights today anyway, will now be chased for both 2017 and 2018. But again, noting that they all lie in the lowest rank in the scale. So, that said, we still do have 2 members who've decided to resign. I hope that will be well balanced against a raft of new memberships later on in the day. But Casa Alianza Suisse have decided that they don't want to currently focus on international advocacy and have therefore resigned as members of Child's Rights Connect. And Child Helpline International, who have been a very active member over the years. I think we welcomed them in 2009, if I recall correctly, 2009-10. But I currently lack capacity to maintain their membership of Child's Rights Connect. So with regret, I inform you of the termination of their membership and resignation, but it's not a question we can vote on. So that is everything I have to say about membership fees at this point, but are there any questions? No? I see no questions. Thank you, Ayla. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as Alan said, we have no decision to make on this part, but I just would like to reiterate our thanks to Alan and for his love affair with membership fee, because he's doing a lot of work in writing letters to different members and trying to get the membership fee. So thank you so much. So the next part is, as Alan said, we have some resigning member, but hopefully we have quite a number of new applications, and we are very happy about that. And this, we really see it also as reinforcing the network. So I will now hand over to Annabelle, who will lead us through this session on new members. Thank you, Annabelle.
Great. Thank you, Ayla. Thank you very much, and thank you, Alan. Okay, so it's really exciting. Despite Alan's sad news, we have got 14 applications for new membership. Hooray. Okay, however, based on the information that these organisations have provided and some individual discussions that have taken place between the Secretariat or EXCO and these membership organisations, EXCO recommends 8 organisations to become members of Child Rights Connect, and these are going to be presented to you now, and we will vote, or you will vote, please, whether you will support their membership. So I hope this isn't going to be too complicated, but some people, some organisations are going to be represented by me because unfortunately they're not here. We have one organisation who is here and is going to represent themselves. We have 4 remote presentations and 1 video presentation. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through the list and we're going to go through each organisation, and then at the end I'm going to ask the members who are the proposed members who are present, of which I think we only have 1, to leave the room, and then we will go through the list of all the members, and I'll ask you to vote in favour or to oppose their application. Okay. So we're going to start with Ekama. Who I'm going to present on 3 minutes. There we have 3 minutes. Okay, I'm being timed. Okay, so Ekama Foundation is based in Tanzania. It's an NGO that has been working since 2009, although I understand it registered in 2013. It works to empower women and children to really challenge discrimination and disempowering practices and beliefs. And it works, well, as we'll see, it does a lot of advocacy work to challenge structures and policies, legislation that is obviously not in support of them claiming their rights. Now, they work in partnership with government, or they engage with government, the private sector, and also community-based organisations. Now, their target group, thank you, David, you're one step ahead of me there. As we've just said, they very much focus on women and children, and they really look at the root causes of marginalisation and exclusion. They do a lot of research, capacity building, and advocacy. Please, David.
Sorry.
And here we can see examples of their areas of intervention. I won't go into each of those now because I think you can see them on the screen, and I'm keen to not go over time. Okay, I'm going to read out this slide, though, why they would like to apply for Child Rights Connect membership. They want to work with the network of NGOs that are passionate to contribute change in the lives of children through changing systems, legislations, attitudes and practices. They want to contribute to sustainable ideas of how to strengthen realisation of rights of children. They want to contribute to the global commitment to children's rights, including following up the progress of international conventions on the rights of the child, the SDGs, and other key processes on the status of children. And they want to share information, knowledge, lessons on what is working for the realisation of children from the national perspective. And also they want to participate in wider dialogue for change in the status of children. And I can speak from my own personal experience, actually, that they have been doing this for some time, and from what I have seen of their work, I do believe that it's very effective from what I've seen. Okay, so the recommendation is made by the Tanzania Child Rights Forum, and their primary contact person is the director, Kokuteta Monica Barego, who some of you may or may not know. Okay, so, yes, 20 seconds left. Great. Okay, good. I'm aware this is a long afternoon. I'm trying to keep it going. Okay, okay. Number 2. How are we going to do this? How will people remember? Yeah. Are there any questions? Are there any questions about Ekama? Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering if it's better actually just to vote, because otherwise with a long list you forget who you were talking about. I think so, yeah. Let's vote now. Sorry, change of plan. I realise it's going to be confusing. Let's vote. Please, could you raise your cards if you're in favour of Ekama becoming a member of Child Rights Connect? Th 34, thank you. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. Okay, great. So congratulations to Ekama Development Foundation Tanzania. We will contact you shortly to confirm your membership. Okay. They're not connected, David, are they? No. No. Okay. Okay, so now Railway Advocacy Network, Pakistan.
Africa.
Pakistan.
So sorry. Children Advocacy Network at Pakistan. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
My bad.
Wrong day.
Yeah, it's just me.
Where's that wine?
No answer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's ringing, in fact, but if he doesn't answer, it's.
Okay, let's come back to them. Let's come back to them. Let's try Voces Ciudadanas. I'm sorry, my Spanish is very bad.
Voces Ciudadanas.
Exactly. In Peru. Hi, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to Child Rights Connect.
We are Voces Ciudadanas. Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great,
we can.
thank
Okay,
you,
great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your application to Child Rights Connect. Please could you take the floor for 2 minutes and present to us why you would like to join Child Rights Connect?
I'm sorry, it's very hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, I'm trying to look at you but speak in the wrong direction to a microphone.
Okay, yes. A little
Is that better? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Okay. Oh, do they?
Thank you so much.
We would like to invite you to share with the Child Rights Connect.
Soy parte de la red de niños y niñas y adolescentes de Voces Ciudadanas.
The membership.
My name is Jose Daniel Argote and I'm a member of the Network of Children and Adolescents for the Right to Health, Voces Ciudadanas.
You're introducing themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That's really lovely to meet you. Would you?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
I think there might be a delay.
Okay, shall we continue with the presentation?
Yes,
or?
please. Yes, please. We would like
Okay.
we would like to give you 2 minutes, please.
Okay, 3 minutes, perfect. Okay. Hola, soy Carla Silvas Argote y vengo de la red de niñas y adolescentes Voces Ciudadanas. My name is Carla Silvas Argote and I'm part of the Network of Children and Adolescents of Voces Ciudadanas. Hola, ¿qué tal? Yo soy Mirita Silvas de la Red Latinoamericana de Niños y Adolescentes por el Derecho a la Salud de Voces Ciudadanas, quienes les acompañamos en enero pasado en Ginebra en la visita que hicimos a Child Rights Connect para comentarles sobre las actividades y las acciones que hacíamos en nuestro país. Hi, my name is Melissa Siwas and I am also a member of the Network of Children and Adolescents for the Right to Health of Voces Ciudadanas, and we were there in Geneva in January with you in Child Rights Connect to let you know about the activities that we made.
Hola, yo soy María Inés Dragonet. También estuve con ustedes en Ginebra y soy responsable de comunicaciones.
My name is Marines Araonex and I was also with you in Geneva and I'm the responsible of the communications.
Hola, mi nombre es Edson Aguilar, soy vicepresidente de Voces Ciudadanas y estamos muy contentos de compartir con ustedes. Muchas gracias por esta oportunidad. Estamos con nuestros niños y niñas líderes para ser parte de la red.
My name is Edson Aguilar. I'm the Vice President of Voces Ciudadanas and we are very happy to share with you and thank you for this opportunity, and we are here with the children that are member of our network.
Well, we are an initiative for the right to health in Latin America and the Caribbean. We drive the first network of children and adolescents for the right to health content of region. Our main headquarters are in Lima, Peru. However, we have strategic alliances that allow us to drive advocacy activities in different countries of the region, such as Panama, El Salvador, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. We must learn to listen to children and adolescents, taking their views and experience as invaluable source to enrich our observations and accompaniment, the promotion and defense of the right to participation. CHRC can be an ideal platform for this. We look forward to sharing our experience with children and adolescents as advocates for the right to health, and we strongly believe it can be our experience with children and adolescents as advocates for the right to health, and we strongly believe it can be our experience with children and adolescents as advocates for the right to health, and we strongly believe it can be our experience with children and adolescents as advocates for the right
Have any questions? No. No. Okay. Thank you very much. We very much appreciated your presentation and to meet the adults and children. Which
but we cannot hear you. It's very difficult to hear you.
And children. Which
but we cannot hear you.
Should be better.
Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Which Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. And children. Which Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. And children. Which Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? And children. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you
hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me now? I'm so confused. Hello? Can you hear me
Thank you very much. Anybody opposed? Thank you. And any abstentions? Thank you. Smiliana, we'd like to welcome you back in.
She went to the ladies' room. Oh, okay.
As she said. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. Excellent. Well done. Thank you. Okay, now the next one comes from me. This is Kinderrechten Coalitie Vlaanderen, Child Rights Coalition Flanders, if you want the English version. David, do you have the presentation?
Dear Child Rights Connect member, my name is Sylvain Mafio.
Okay, so this is a coalition based in Belgium. They're made up. I'm just going to continue just for time. Is that okay? So it's a coalition made of 27 Flemish NGOs who fight for respect for children's rights in Flanders. They've got 2 people in their secretariat, and they work on official assignment of the Flemish government. They work together with the Walloon NGO Coalition, the Flemish Ombudsman and Complaints Line, the Child's Rights Knowledge Centre, the Flemish and federal government, NGO coalitions of neighbouring countries, Eurochild, Child Rights Connect and others too. What do? Well, they guard the respect and implementation of the CRC in Flanders by writing alternative reports to the Committee on the Rights of the Child, networking and bringing people and knowledge together, and putting themes in the attention of the policy, I think it says here, and public opinion by campaigning, publications and other awareness-raising actions. Their alternative report in 2018 focused on 13 topics. I will quickly run through them as we don't have a slideshow here. Policies and general application, non-discrimination, participation, freedom of speech, violence, family, disability, poverty, health, education, leisure, migration and justice, just seeing if you're awake there. And at local level, they're working on lots of issues, which I'll give you an overview of now. This is towards the end. So this includes freedom of religion, health, poverty, education, disability, justice, participation, non-discrimination, migration, violence, and many others. Next slide, sorry, then. Yeah, that one. No, next. Yeah, that one. Why do they want to become members of Child Rights Connect? Well, they would like to share their knowledge, get information on topics that they're working on, be in contact with other national NGO coalitions, and get more insights in international child rights legislation, amongst other things. This is the information that we have on Kinderrechten Coalitie Vlaanderen. Unfortunately, we don't have a representative here, but does anybody have any questions that I might be able to answer or others might be able to answer? No? Okay. Then, if you are in support of the Kinderrechten Coalitie Vlaanderen becoming a member of Child Rights Connect, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Any opposition or any abstentions? No. Excellent. Congratulations, Kinderrechten Coalitie Vlaanderen, Belgium. Okay, I'm sorry I'm moving fast because I'm realising it's getting late. Okay, so I think we're going to try to connect with Railway Children Africa, based in Tanzania. David, would you mind doing the... Could you speak with them?
Go to another one.
Yep. Next, Badunia Kokodaneji, that was in Turkey. Oh. I need to get you to pronounce these, Beatrice. I can speak Turkish. You don't speak Turkish? I'm surprised. Must be the only thing I spoke
Kyrgyz, which is close to Turkey.
Oh, yeah.
work in street-connected children and youth, and we have proved methodologies in street intervention, youth interventions, and family interventions. And what we expect is that we'll engage in policy debate and contribute to the wider knowledge on child rights, and also to learn and, of course, to learn, also to be able to learn how to advocate better, especially when it comes to government in the country. Okay. My 2 minutes, not yet.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Are there any?
Okay.
Any questions from the floor? No questions. I'll cut the call and we'll get back to you with the result of the vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, David. If you are in favour of Railway Children... And finally, the last application is from SAPI Switzerland. I think
Ready?
it's going to be a video. A video, yeah, exactly. Here it is.
Dear Child Right Connect member, my name is Sylvain Fillos, chairman of the association Save the People, also called SAPI. As an international NGO, we work in Central Africa, especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for the child protection, mother and children health, food security, and community resilience. We aim to achieve through those activities a better future for children and their communities. We are already part of different clusters and forums based on this subject. However, our wish today is to join the Child Right Connect in order to share our knowledge with other stakeholders, learn from them, and strengthen our advocacy capacity in child protection. Most of our activities are made in partnership with UNICEF or funded by local donors. For example, we actually work on a complex project in Kasai with children and displaced population. We are building community networks and mechanisms for child protection, finding temporary foster families, organizing unaccompanied children identification, tracking and reunification with their relatives. The need is huge in this conflict and post-conflict situation where we face several particular issues. Former child soldier and breedway children are not accompanied. Vulnerable children have no access to education, limited access to basic health care, limited access to balanced and quality food, high level of malnutrition symptoms. Moreover, global poverty is affecting children through their relatives, and child rights unawareness and the inconsistency with particular local customs is a huge concern, as are child labor and numerous sexual abuses. In order to achieve our goals, we progress in partnership with a large panel of stakeholders, including local authorities and civil society. However, we always need to reinforce and bring our advocacy capacity to a larger level. Already working on similar projects in other Congolese provinces, we are also on the way to expand our activities in Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, and Cameroon. Thank you very much for listening. We look forward to seeing you again and share our knowledge and concerns for a better future.
Thank you very much. Final vote.
I do have a question.
Yes,
It might
please.
be a typo, but it says recommended by War Child Holland.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
So it might be typo.
No, this.
No, this is not a typo. They have been recommended by War Child Holland somewhere in Congo, but it's, yeah. I actually asked them to make sure that you are aware of that, which obviously didn't happen. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like the other one, the previous member was also recommended by War Child Holland, but you were informed of that. We're trying to make sure, but then, yeah.
Thanks, Emma, for clarifying that, and Beatrice. Okay, last vote on new members. Please raise. Sorry, yes.
I'm just looking at the website.
Mike.
I'm just looking at the website, but there is a list of offices, local offices, but they're giving the address in Switzerland. So, if they have, do they really have offices in those countries? For instance, I was looking at Burundi, I looked at DRC, I even look at Belgium, but the address is only the office in Switzerland. But they clearly say Burundi, our office is in Burundi, in DRC, and so on. I mean, I don't know them. I'm just, maybe somebody else knows them better. I'm just flagging this.
Yeah, it's a pity that Sylvain is not here now. He was here in the morning. If you recognized, he couldn't be here today and tomorrow. He was here in the morning. I can just only say Sylvain is based in Lausanne. That's the official kind of headquarter of the organization. It's a very small organization. And I talked also to the director from DRC. I talked to the two of them. I don't know if they are registered or what's exactly the status in the different countries. So I'm not aware of that.
Based on that uncertainty, are participants still happy to vote? Are we still happy to go ahead with the vote? Yes.
Just a question. What does SAPI stand for? Sorry. What does SAPI stand for?
Save the People.
Thank you.
Sorry, very nearly at the end of the day. Thank you very much, everyone. It's really exciting to confirm that we have 8 new members to Child Rights Connect Network. It looks like we have a very diverse and exciting collection of new members, and I'm sure many of us will want to connect soon with several of them who might have bigger budgets than we do. I'm joking. Over to you, Ella.
Thanks a lot, Annabelle. So we still have one point on the agenda before terminating the statutory part of our General Assembly, and it's the elections of EXCO. And as we discussed previously, we are happy to have so many candidates, and after the election of EXCO, it shall probably be the largest EXCO that we ever had for Child Rights Connect. So let me give you a bit of background first before the candidates present themselves and before we proceed to the vote. First of all, we have one member who has finished her 3rd term, and who is therefore stepping down. And it's Conchi Ballesteros. I don't know if she's online, but I really would like to thank Conchi for all the work she has done for Child Rights Connect. She was really a pioneer in the, reinforcing the network and in setting the network concept. So I really would like to thank Conchi for her 3 terms at Child Rights Connect. Second, we have 3 current members of EXCO who have been elected last year and whose term go till 2019. And it's Annabelle who is there, and it's Anna Sastre from who was presented by Save the Children, and it's myself. So we are 3 members whose term will end next year in 2019. Then we have 2 members of the current EXCO whose term are finishing now and who are standing for re-election. And we have Delia, who is our chair. And just to say that her mandate, she was elected chair last year, so her mandate of chair goes till 2019. But her mandate as a member finishes this year, so she is standing for a re-election for a new mandate of member, but not mandate of chair. And then we have Alan, who is standing for re-election for a 2nd term. So these are the people from the current EXCO. Then we have 6 new candidates, and I think you have received their name in the messages that you got for the General Assembly. So we have Caroline Ford, and she's presented by Consortium for Street Children, and she's seconded by Save the Children. And I'm giving this information because it is lacking in the documents that you have received. Then we have Chris Daxton Hibbert, and he's presented by World Vision, and he's in the room. Then we have Dorothy Rosga, and she's presented by ECPAT, and unfortunately she couldn't be with us, and she's not online either. Then we have Maria Herzog, who is also presented by Eurochild, and I think she's not online either. Then we have Roseanne Scholten. She's presented by Together Scotland, and I'm not sure she's online. Okay, so welcome, Roseanne. And then we have Smiliana Simeunovic-Frick. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and you're in the room, and thanks for being here. So these are the 6 new candidates to whom we will ask also to present themselves, and who are standing for a first election. And then we have 2 members who have already been co-opted in the executive committee. And we spoke about the question of co-option earlier, and it is also to be able to bring in the executive committee the expertise which we think we are lacking, and to reinforce the executive committee. And these 2 members who have already been co-opted, but for whom we are simply asking the endorsement of the GA. So it's not a vote, really. It's just an information and an endorsement. So we had Ruth Voigt, who is sitting there, and who was presented by Plan International. And we have Stephen Langdon, whom we already mentioned earlier, and he's really an expert in mobilizing resources. And I don't know if he's online. Okay, so unfortunately, he's not online. So this is altogether what we will have to decide in a few minutes. But first of all, I would like to ask all the members whom I mentioned the name and who are in the room to come to the podium, and we will ask them 2 questions, and they will have the possibility to respond. So it's also for you. So please come to the podium. All the persons whom I have mentioned, even if you are from different categories. So I would like to ask you. Oh, I should speak.
Hi, Roseanne. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Okay, so we're about to go with the presentations. I'll share the screen, people will be able to see you, and the other EXCO candidates are there as well.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to ask to all the candidates, maybe we start with those who are on the podium first and then we go to Roseanne. My first question, if you were to be an animal, what would you be and why? And my second question is, in 2 years at the end of this current mandate, what will be different in Child Rights Connect thanks to your work in EXCO? So please, we can hear you one after the other responding to these questions. Yes, you have to speak into the mic. Yes.
So if I were an animal, I would be a woodpecker. The reason is that I did a drum travel not very long time ago. I was quite skeptic about it, but it actually worked, and I saw myself as a woodpecker. So the question was easy. If I would come back in 2 years, I'm envisioning to see a Child Rights Connect with much less worry about the financial resources, with a secretariat that would be able to dedicate the time and efforts and the resources on the programmatic work. I would like to see a Child Rights Connect that has attracted new long-term donors and developed new fundraising long-term strategies. And donors and the wider human rights community that would actually see and acknowledge the important mandate of Child Rights Connect's work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Thank you. So, Chris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Dirksen-Hebert from World Vision International. My first thought on the question of animal was Roger Federer, because I love tennis and I'd love to be able to play like Roger Federer. But I think you wanted something more on the technical animal side. So I also love birds of prey. I always see them wherever I go. I see hawks and eagles and so on. So hawks have the ability to see the big picture as they soar overhead. They can see what's going on in a very large sense, but they can also pinpoint down. Their vision is incredible, and they can see very detailed images from vast distances. So I hope that I can kind of bring that big picture, but also a very focused vision on certain aspects of our work as well. So that's the hawk. In terms of in 2 years, so my understanding is that, I mean, it's a similar response, I suppose, but I know that this coincides with the next strategic plan, 2020 to 24, I think is the time frame. So I hope that I'll be, in 2 years, that we'll have a very clear strategic plan going for those years, which includes, of course, the theory of change, the funding aspects, the staffing, and all the support that comes with that from members of Child Rights Connect.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Smiliana?
So, hi again. The question related to the animal I would be is quite difficult for me to answer. There are so many possibilities. And on the other hand, I was thinking really about this. And I'm aware very often I'm many. So this time I'm going to be 2 animals together. It's going to be an elephant and a bumblebee. And this is because sometimes I really kind of connect things that are not that easy to connect. And so for this reason. And the second question is, well, what would be different? Also quite a difficult question. And I'm very committed to children's participation in decision-making processes that affect them. And I think Child Rights Connect is already doing a groundbreaking thing with the DGD and in general with supporting children's participation in the CRC monitoring and reporting. Well, I'm going to support this, and yeah, I hope Child Rights Connect is going to continue doing such groundbreaking work with me in the EXCO. Yeah.
Thank you. Any
Welcome.
questions?
Yeah.
No? Okay, so Alan.
Well, as Chris has stolen the bird family and Smiliana's stolen the elephant, I would say I would like to be thought of as a tiger. Quietly, skillfully maneuvering around in the undergrowth, but knowing when to attack. With strength, but also not with anger, but in a measured way. 2 years from now, I hope this network will be pushing 100 members. I hope this network will be back where we were 2 or 3 years ago in terms of staffing and financial support. I hope we will replace or bring back in some of the people we've lost. They've done great work. So I think it's about going and hunting for the resources, like the tiger I am, to make sure that happens and put this back on a firm footing. And only to say that when I joined the EXCO 10 years ago for the first time, the situation was infinitely, infinitely worse. Infinitely. We were down to 1 member of staff. My first General Assembly, there were 21 members in the room. Changed days indeed. So let's keep pushing in the right direction. Yes, the road is not easy, but we can get there.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions for Alan? No? Okay. Can we go online then?
Roseanne?
Yes?
So, can you answer the questions?
I'll try to do my best. Yes, I will. Thank you very much. I can't hear you too clearly, so I'll go ahead, but please interrupt me if you can't hear me all that well. As for which animal I think I am, I asked my children what they thought, and luckily they didn't answer, so I felt free to choose one for myself. And I've chosen a whale, partly because I think most whales are on the whole nicer than many human beings, but for the reason that they are both independent. They're pretty clear thinking and independent. They go about their business in an independent way, but they're also very social, gregarious, and they do act in teams at times. And I remember particularly watching a whale being born off the coast of South Africa, and all of the female whales in the near vicinity came round and formed a circle round the birthing mother, and it was an incredibly moving moment. And gave me an insight that I hadn't seen before. So in terms of being part of a strong and effective team, I like that aspect of whales too. They also sing way better than I do, and they dialogue and they exchange, and they're pretty playful, and I think it's important also to be playful in life. But maybe one of the strongest elements is the fact that they are very... they're steadfast, if I can put it like that. And even when challenged and pursued, and we know that there are plenty of people who would like to go whale hunting or even reduce their numbers, even so, they still don't give up or change the way that they live. They still try to be that sociable, team singing, playful creature that they are. So whale is my choice of animal. How do I see the Child Rights Connect looking different in 2020 is a hugely challenging question, I think. And others have answered it, what I've been able to hear, very effectively. But I would hope that by then, and especially after having listened to the colleague who just spoke about the varied fortunes of CRC over the years, I think being able to see a strong and stable and growing network, secretariat and executive committee would be a good thing to be able to see. And I would like to contribute to that by being an active and supportive member of the committee. I hope I'll be a useful member. supporting the director, supporting the staff team, and you know, working closely with other executive committee members to achieve the goals that Child Rights Connect has. I know, of course, if others have said, that's going to be the point when the strategic plan is going to be launched, is going to be started. So I would envisage contributing to the development and finalization of that, and helping with clarity and also helping with prioritization, because clearly that's going to be a huge issue going forward, not least relating to resources. I think also others have also spoken about children's participation, empowerment, and children as human rights defenders. And I think that's just one of the most marvelous aspects of Child Rights Connect. I think I would like to contribute not just to empowerment, which is of course extremely important, but also to so that children can be heard, but also so that they can be heeded, and see if we can find ways to make sure that the adults, the institutions, the networks listen and pay attention to children, not just that children become even more creative and marvelous than they are already at expressing themselves and articulating their issues, but that people hear them and respond effectively. Because I think we often have people just sort of sweeping the child's contribution to one side and thinking, well, that was cute and that was nice, but we can't really fit it into our plans. So contributing to helping the child human rights defenders be heeded in the countries in which they're working. I think those would be my wishes, to see if there's a change and to contribute to if I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosanne. Now I will ask if anybody has any questions to you. No? Okay. So we also have received a few messages from the candidates. Yeah, okay, so I get back. We also received a few messages from the candidates who cannot be here with us. So Dorothy Rosga, who is presented by ECPAD, she responded that she had to Google all over the place to find a suitable answer to which animal she could be, but then she concluded that she cannot give an answer on that question. And to the second question of how she sees the future of Child Rights Connect in 2 years and how she sees her achievement at the end of this mandate, she said that Child Rights Connect will be financially sustainable. So that's the message from Dorothy Rosga. I think you, Beatrice, you got other messages.
Yes, I got one more from Maria Herzog, whom we are also happy to have applied to become member of EXCO. So she answered the first question. If I were an animal, I would probably be a dog. I am very loyal, sociable, active, persistent, and heart hungry. So that was her first. And then for 2020, what she saw when she looked into the future, she said, Child Rights Connect will be even more known and respected by partners and future partners. It will be engaged in programs to measure the outcomes and effectiveness of the work done, and more information available on the needs of the NGOs to be facilitated working on child rights, reporting to the committee and monitoring the recommendations, contributing to the implementation of the CRC and other relevant child-related aspects of other treaties. And that's interesting. There would be more active connections to the work of other treaty bodies to enhance the child rights approach, for example, UPR, CRPD, etc.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. So if there is no other question, we will ask all the candidates to leave the room and we will proceed to the vote, and we will call you back when we have the results.
Call you back?
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, and I have proxy votes from Alan in the meantime. Is that allowed? I don't know. Okay, so we will proceed first to the election of Delia Pope as member of EXCO. Please raise your cards. Who is in favor? $24? Okay, anybody against? Abstention? One abstention. So 24 votes for and one abstention. Delia is elected as EXCO member. Now we proceed to the vote for Alan Kikuchi-White as member of the executive committee. Please raise your card. Who is in favor? $31? Okay. Anybody against? Abstention? One abstention. Okay, so Alan is elected as EXCO member with 31 votes in favor and one abstention. The next vote is for Caroline Ford. She's presented by Consortium for Street Children. So who is in favor of the election of Caroline Ford to EXCO? Please raise your card. $29. Anybody against? No? Abstention? Okay, so Caroline Ford is elected to the executive committee with 29 votes in favor and unanimity. Yeah. So the next vote
this is not a unanimity. There are several people who didn't vote, and
okay, so it's
and in some we have 34 in the room, and the person before only got 29.
Okay.
So there are more abstentions.
No, it's 29 in favor and yes,
Yeah.
and not unanimity. Okay. 21 in favor, elected with 29 in favor. Yeah. Okay. The next person is Chris Derksen-Hebert, and he's proposed by World Vision. So who is in favor of the election of Chris in the executive committee? Please raise your card. Okay, abstention? No, anybody against? Abstention? So Chris is elected as member of the executive committee with 32 votes in favor. The next vote is for Dorothy Rosgan. She's presented by ECPAT. So who is in favor of the election of Dorothy Rosgan in the EXCO? Please raise your cards. Anybody against? Abstention? So Dorothy Rosga is elected as member of the executive committee with 32 votes in favor. The next election is for Maria Herzog, and she's presented by Eurochild. So who is in favor of the election of Maria Herzog in EXCO? Please raise your card. Okay. Anybody against? No? Abstention? No? Okay, so Maria Herzog is elected as member of the executive committee with 31 votes in favor. The next election is for Roseanne Scholten. So she's presented by Together Scotland. So who is in favor of the election of Roseanne Scholten in the executive committee of Child Rights Connect? Please raise your cards. Okay. Who is against? Abstention? Okay, so Roseanne Scholten is elected as member of the executive committee with 32 votes in favor. The last vote is for Smiljana Simeunovic-Frick. So who is in favor for the election of Smiljana in the executive committee? Please raise your card. Anybody against? 1. Abstention? 1. So Smiljana is elected as member of the executive committee with 30 votes in favor, 1 vote against, and 1 abstention. So I think this concludes the vote on the executive committee member. And then, as I said, we have 2 co-opted members of the executive committee, and they don't have to be elected by the General Assembly, but we are just presenting them for endorsement. They are already part of the executive committee as co-opted members. Yeah? Okay? So I think this concludes the election to the executive committee. I think we can call back the candidate and tell them the results by acclamation when they are back. So congratulations, you have all been elected as members of the executive committee. And we are really forward to working all together with this strong EXCO, and really, as we said, that within 2 years, Child Rights Connect will be financially sustainable and will have developed a lot. So thanks a lot. I think we are getting now close to the end of this statutory part. I just would like to know if anybody has any other question they want to share at this General Assembly before we close. we're closing the statutory part, but we still have our reception at 6, and tomorrow we have very important and interesting workshops. So anybody has any comment or question before we close? No? So thank you so much for being here, for participating so actively to this first part of our General Assembly. We are really looking forward to working all together for Child Rights Connect. Now we are warmly invited to the reception that will take place at 6 p.m. I suppose upstairs where we were for lunch. And tomorrow we also have very interesting workshops, and we are counting on you for that. So thanks a lot for being here, and see you in a few minutes at our reception.
Thank you, Ela.
And
thank you.
And may I ask all the EXCO members to come? We just have a